Everybody's frustrated. That is what President Biden said this past weekend after the Democrats' plan to quickly pass two huge pieces of his agenda collapsed. But he insists the setback is temporary.
I'm telling you, we're going to get this done. It doesn't matter when. It doesn't matter whether it's in 6 minutes, 6 days, or 6 weeks. We're going to get it done.
President Biden hits the road this week to sell his plans, and Speaker Pelosi says the new deadline for passing the bipartisan infrastructure bill is October 31st. Still, it remains unclear whether Democrats can unite behind both or either plan before time runs out. Joining me now to discuss is Democratic strategist Maria Cardona and former communications director for Senator Ted Cruz, Alice Stewart, the Dream Team, otherwise known as the Dream Team.
There you go.
Great to see you both. So I'm going to kick it off with you here, Maria. You have Pramila Jayapal telling CNN that progressives will not accept Manchin's ceiling of $1.5 trillion for their social spending plan. I mean, I know Democrats keep saying, we're going to get it done, we're going to get it done. But that's not a sure bet. So if it doesn't get done, if Biden's agenda sinks, will the progressives be to blame for that?
That's not going to happen because guess what, Pamela? We're going to get it done. And look, Jayapal has been very clear. This is Biden's agenda. It's not just the progressive agenda. This is where I think the media has gotten it really wrong. This is what Joe Biden ran on. And look, if it was easy, we would have done this a long time ago. But the fact of the matter is that where I see things is that you have every Democrat on the Hill in the Senate and in the House prioritizing and focused and committed to passing historic investments that will be transformational for the lives of working class families, middle class families, those who have not enjoyed a level playing field in what should be the greatest country in the world where the American dream should be available to everyone. So what I see is Joe Biden's agenda is actually in progress because that is what negotiation is. That is what Joe Biden said. It may not happen tomorrow, may not happen in 6 days, but it is going to happen, hopefully sooner than 6 weeks, but it is going to happen. These deadlines weren't really real. They just push people to try to get to the point where we can agree on something. So, Pamela, it will get done.
It will absolutely be the progressives' fault if this doesn't work out. They have hijacked Joe Biden's agenda. And what has happened is that this massive spending package that's on the table, they've overplayed their hands. That is not what the Biden agenda was when he ran for office. He ran as being a moderate. He ran on unity. Right now, we have the progressives running the show, and we have no unity. And here's the thing. I remember it was, I think, a week ago, we had Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer out saying, we have a framework for an agreement on a framework. Here we are a week later. We have no agreement on what kind of dollar figure we have, no agreement on the timeline. Everyone says, oh, time is not of the essence. We really don't know what the Democratic agenda. I think there should be more Democrats like the congressman you just had on with the Problem Solvers Caucus who agrees that we need to look at a more scaled down version of this. Let's do what we can do. Let's pass the bipartisan infrastructure bill and get that moving and that off the table. And then let's look at more of a package that does address some of these issues in the larger package that people do agree on and get away with the progressive wish list that is really clogging up.
But of course, progressives would worry they would lose their leverage,
right.
You know, if that happened. But I want to ask you, too, because my CNN colleague John Harwood pointed this out, that one of the potential problems with the larger progressive spending plan is that Democrats haven't sort of agreed what to call it. You know, we keep hearing Build Back Better, American Families Plan, the Human Infrastructure Package. I mean, when a bill lacks a clear definition, does that make it harder to promote and maybe even easier to attack?
I think that's probably true. And so I think that what Joe Biden is doing is super important because less important than the name is actually communicating to the American people what's in it. And Joe Biden actually did run on all of these things. Let's talk about what's in the bill. What is in the bill is an extension of the child tax credit. What is in the bill is help for child care. You and I are moms. We know that that is something that families all over the country desperately need, especially now that so many women were so hurt by the pandemic and haven't even gone back to work because they can't get somebody to take care of their kid. There is elderly care in there right now. That is super important. I just brought my mother over from Colombia. This is something that so many families are dealing with now as well. Money for climate change, an existential threat to all of our well-being. So there are things in there that, Republicans love to call it the progressive wish list because it makes it easier to attack. But the fact of the matter, it is in an American necessity list. And let's look at the polls. The majority of the American people are for so many of the things that are in there. And frankly, a quarter of Republicans are for it as well. And ironically, a majority of Trump supporters would benefit massively from when these spending bills go through, because they will be policies and they will be things that will absolutely help every single one of them.
And again, the holdup on this massive plan is Democrats, Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, who say we don't need to spend this kind of money. This is way too much money. And look, there are so many programs in there that many people do agree with. Let's sign off on those and let's scale back and cut out the rest. A lot of these climate change policies, tree equities, a lot of these gender identity programs, a lot of that can be done down the road. And some of these 10-year programs, let's scale them down to 5 and trim the fat, and we can certainly get this thing done. So the fact that saying that it's Republicans that are the hold up.
You're for it, Alice. Yeah. She's helping us negotiate. That's what negotiation is.
Thank you. It's the numbers game between 1.5 that Joe Manchin wants and 3.5 that the progressives want.
That's right.
Maybe $2 trillion is more of a sweet spot, but I think we should go much lower than that, and that's the only way we're going to get it.
And one way they're talking about is maybe limiting from 10 years to 5 years,
right,
trying to find creative workarounds. Exactly. But as this is going on, which is clearly taking the president's attention this week, he heads to Michigan to promote these bills. You have the immigration issue ongoing. In fact, Panama's foreign minister tells Axios that some 60,000 Haitians are on the way to the U.S. border right now. So, Maria, how does the Biden administration get this immigration crisis under control?
Well, ideally, it would be by passing comprehensive immigration reform. But that would actually take Republicans understanding the problem that is immigration and wanting to work for a solution, as opposed to just trying to blanket all Democrats as wanting open borders, because we know that's what they're saying now. If they would help us pass comprehensive immigration reform, it would be a big step.
And we know it.
Well, no, it's not going to happen. You're absolutely right.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
What realistically can they do?
So realistically, what will happen, which is what happened with the 12,000 Haitians that came here, is that they will process those that can be processed. They will send back those that need to be sent back under the law. And they will try to figure out working with Haiti and with all of the other countries that will hopefully accept them as well, in addition to the United States. This is not just a problem for the United States. This is a global and a hemispheric problem. That's why the vice president has been focused on trying to look at the root causes, the long-term causes of immigration. Because, Pam, you can sit here and ask me all of these things every time there is a surge, and there will be surges. But until we focus on the long-term solutions, one of which is comprehensive immigration reform, this will continue to happen. And Republicans, we had a huge opportunity to pass comprehensive immigration reform back in 2013. They said no.
We need to do away with the comprehensive plan. And what can we agree on immigration? We can agree on protections for dreamers. DACA, let's look at a more narrowed version that we can agree on that will help some aspect of immigration, and this talk of comprehensive immigration, like many things that Democrats like to do in a comprehensive fashion, that's not the way to do it. More incremental policies are the way to do it.
And as we know, immigration could go on and on and on. Yeah. But before we let you go, I got to ask you about last night's SNL, returning for this new season. And they even debuted a new Joe Biden. Have you seen it? Take a look.
How's everybody's summer? Mine was bad. Not Cuomo bad, but definitely not Afghanistan good. Everyone keeps razzing me about that drone strike. But on the bright side, I went the entire summer without falling down the stairs once.
All right, quick hot take. Maria?
It was brilliant. We need humor, especially these days, Pam.
Yeah, how does he compare, do you think, to past Bidens in the show?
He was excellent. He had all the mannerisms down, the tone and tenor. But I tell you what, the person that played Kyrsten Sinema, spot on. That was very good.
Very good. I always like to end the discussion on a light note. So Thank you so much, ladies. Of course we do. All right, thank you so much. Great to see you both. Alice Stewart, Maria Cardona.